If the Rig Veda describes a river that hasn't existed in 20,000 years, then it was not written in the Bronze Age. It was written in deep time. And if that is true, then the entire timeline of early Indian civilization must be re-examined, not only for the Rig Veda, but also for the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. For more than a century, the dominant academic model has dated the Rig Veda to around 1500 BCE. The Mahabharata is often placed somewhere near 1000 BCE, sometimes earlier, sometimes later. The Ramayana is treated as layered mythology, composed gradually over centuries without a firm historical anchor. That is the standard narrative. But when the internal astronomical evidence of the epics is examined systematically, and when geological and hydrological data are compared with textual descriptions, a very different timeline begins to emerge. Based on detailed astronomical modeling of planetary positions, lunar months, nakshatras, seasonal references, and pole star configurations, one reconstruction places the Mahabharata War in 5561 BCE. The Ram-Ravana War of the Ramayana is placed at approximately 12,209 BCE, and the Rig Veda, based on ecological and hydrological evidence related to the Saraswati River, appears to reflect conditions that may predate 20,000 BCE. This is not a minor adjustment to a timeline. It is a shift from Bronze Age chronology into deep prehistory. Let us begin with the Rig Veda. The Rig Veda does not describe a fading or marginal river. It describes Saraswati as the greatest of rivers. She is praised as mighty, expansive, and powerful. She is described as flowing from the mountains to the sea. She is not portrayed as seasonal, diminished, or symbolic. She is presented as a dominant, life-sustaining force within a real and inhabited landscape. Modern satellite imagery, sediment analysis, and paleochannel mapping have identified the buried course of a massive river system beneath the Thar Desert and along the Ghaggar-Hakra Basin. Geological evidence shows that this system once carried substantial glacial meltwater from the Himalayas. However, by the late Bronze Age, major tributaries such as the Sutlej and the Yamuna had already shifted course. What remained during the supposed 1500 BCE period was a reduced, largely monsoon-fed remnant. It was not the grand, glacier-fed river described in the Rig Veda. If the Rig Veda consistently praises Saraswati as the most powerful river of its time, then the environmental conditions required for that description must have existed when the text was composed, or when its memory was formed. Geological reconstructions suggest that the fully glacial-fed Saraswati configuration existed far earlier than 1500 BCE. In some interpretations, its most powerful phase predates 20,000 BCE. This creates a direct contradiction. Either the Rig Veda is environmentally inaccurate about the world it describes, or the conventional Bronze Age dating is wrong. There is no comfortable third option. Some may argue that the descriptions are poetic exaggerations. However, the Rig Veda does not mention Saraswati casually. It places her among specific rivers. It situates her within a recognizable geography. The text references mountains, plains, and flowing waters in a manner that suggests lived familiarity, not symbolic abstraction. The consistency of the praise suggests either direct experience or preserved civilizational memory. Now consider the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata contains hundreds of astronomical references. These include specific planetary positions, lunar phases, nakshatras, and seasonal markers tied to the war narrative. When these descriptions are modeled using modern astronomical calculations, one year emerges that satisfies the full set of constraints without internal contradiction. 5561 BCE. For example, the text describes an observation involving the stars Arundhati and Vasistha, where Arundhati is seen ahead of Vasistha. Stellar precession, the slow wobble of Earth's axis over a roughly 26,000-year cycle, changes the apparent positions of stars over long periods. That specific configuration narrows the possible time frame dramatically. Additional planetary descriptions must intersect consistently within the same year. When treated as a system rather than isolated verses, the constraints converge on a single period. The Mahabharata also states that Krishna's city of Dwarka was submerged 36 years after the war. If the war occurred in 5561 BCE, that places the submergence around 5525 BCE. Geological studies indicate significant sea level fluctuations during that period. While this does not prove the narrative, it provides environmental context that aligns with the internal chronology. Genetic studies add another dimension. Research has identified a significant Y chromosome bottleneck event in the Indian subcontinent, approximately 7,000 to 8,000 years ago. Such a bottleneck implies a dramatic reduction in male lineage diversity. The Mahabharata describes a devastating fratricidal war between closely related clans, resulting in enormous male casualties. Genetics alone cannot confirm the epic account, but the temporal alignment invites careful examination rather than immediate dismissal. Now consider the Ramayana. The Ramayana also contains detailed astronomical references, including seasonal descriptions, lunar positions, planetary alignments, and pole star observations. One reconstruction based on these references places the Ram-Ravana war around 12,209 BCE. Pole stars change over time due to axial precession. Today, Polaris marks the north celestial pole. In earlier eras, other stars occupied that role. The Ramayana includes references interpreted as indicating a different pole star configuration consistent with a much earlier epoch. When combined with seasonal drift of lunar months relative to solstices, the astronomical data suggests a time frame far older than conventional literary dating allows. The Ramayana also contains ecological references, including descriptions of multi-tusked elephant-like creatures that correspond to prehistoric proboscidean species known from deep antiquity. These details are not conclusive on their own, but they align more comfortably with a late Pleistocene environment than with a late 1st millennium BCE setting. Taken together, the Rig Veda, the Ramayana, and the Mahabharata form a chronological arc that stretches far deeper into the past than the standard model allows. Rig Veda reflects a powerful Saraswati river, consistent with late Ice Age hydrology. The Ramayana's astronomical and ecological markers point to approximately 12,209 BCE. The Mahabharata's astronomical convergence aligns with 5,561 BCE. This does not require blind acceptance. Hydrological reconstructions are complex. Astronomical modeling depends on interpretation. Genetic correlations must be handled carefully. Responsible inquiry demands caution, but caution is not the same as dismissal. When textual evidence, astronomical modeling, geological data, and genetic signals begin to cluster around a deep time framework, the burden shifts. The question is no longer whether these texts are mythology. The question becomes whether modern chronology is incomplete. The Indian subcontinent has been inhabited for tens of thousands of years. Archaeological evidence shows continuity before and after catastrophic events, such as the Toba eruption 74,000 years ago. Oral traditions can preserve memory over extraordinary spans of time when supported by disciplined transmission systems. The Vedic tradition is one of the most sophisticated oral preservation systems in human history. Its precision in phonetics and meter was designed to minimize drift. That system makes long-duration cultural memory plausible. If the Rig Veda describes a river that has not existed in 20,000 years, then it was not written in the Bronze Age. It was written in deep time. And if the Mahabharata and Ramayana align with astronomical reconstructions thousands of years earlier than assumed, then Indian civilizational memory stretches back far beyond conventional history. In that case, civilization did not begin where textbooks say it began. What we call history may only be the most recent layer of a far older human story.